Okay, good afternoon, everyone. It's a great honor to stand before you as we conclude this symposium. Can you hear it? Oh, I'm fine with that. Yeah, okay. Yeah, and today we have heard about some remarkable progress in tokenization, DeFi, and digital asset alongside some sobering discussions on AI-enabled fraud, cybersecurity, and threats and the short windows for recovering illicit proceeds. Indeed, yes. As we look at this issue from this perspective, the questions remains not only what can we build now, but how do we ensure that it endures with trust and resilience. So my name is Alastair Marke. I'm the chair of this UK's National Committee on Blockchain and DLT Standards at the BSI, which is the UK's national body developing international standards on various aspects. And then we have quite a few things that we could share with you today, but very succinctly. And reflecting on our session today, a clear pattern has emerged. We see accelerating regulations, MiCA, the UK's digital security sandbox, and forthcoming crypto custody rules, yet cross-border fragmentation persists. We see real-world asset tokenization moving into production, but hitting legal liquidity and now cybersecurity barriers. Institutional barriers via DTPs is growing, yet custody, interoperability, and resilience are lagging. Our fraud and cyber panels reminded us this earlier today that recovery windows after incident can be as short as 24 to 72 hours, and that stable coins now dominate illicit flows largely because of easy off-ramps. The missing piece remains interoperable, resilient infrastructure. And if I may offer a brief observation today, our legal and security panelists and other colleagues out there have shown us today, as of today, that if the threat landscape were any more fragmented, we would soon need a new ISO standard simply to map the acronyms. Standards, quite simply, are how we avoid building a collection of expensive, disconnected, and increasingly vulnerable islands. We've reached a critical inflection point. Indeed, between 2015 and 2022, we lived through the era of permissionless experimentation. From 2023 to now, we have faced intense regulatory scrutiny and institutional adoption. But as we move into this year, 2026 and even beyond, we need production-grade cross-border infrastructure that is resilient by design. So standards are the bridge that turns isolated experiments into a connected, tradable, and defensible global market. Without this bridge, we are not building a new financial system, but we are just merely constructing a series of expensive, disconnected experiment projects. Precisely the outcome our panelists had warned against when discussing rapid recovery of proceeds of crime and the limits of current attribution tools. This brings us to the role of the BSI, the British Standards Institution. BSI is the UK's national standards body, operating under the Royal Charter for nearly a century. We've just celebrated 125th anniversary on the 20th of April this year. We are independent, yet work in a national interest through a formal MOU with the UK government. But why does this matter for blockchain? It's because standards are powerful engines for growth and resilience. They contribute indeed over £8.8 billion annually to UK GDP and have driven nearly 40% of productivity growth since 2000. When we standardize blockchain and DLT, we're not adding red tape, but we are injecting a digital economy that must have contended with AI-enabled threats as inside risk and operational resilience expectations set out in frameworks such as EU DORA and the UK's critical third parties regime, etc. Standards help embed the governance, auditability, and compliance by design that both regulators and institutions increasingly demand. As we makes it clear that the UK does not develop standards in isolation. Through the BSI, we convened the national voice in the world's premier bodies, including ISO with 164 members national standard bodies, the IEC and ITU as the UN agency for telecommunications. The country occupies a position of genuine influence. Ranging from ISO committees to IEC working groups and with a number of leading number of peer membership, which means that we can have tangible voting rights to make decisions on the direction and even the wording of every single piece of standard being made internationally. Our influence extends further through the Commonwealth Standards Network and active bilateral partnership. When we develop standards for vocabulary, digital token identifiers, or the hybrid model for financial asset tokenization, we're actually helping to create the common foundations that supports both innovation and traceability needed to combat fraud and recover proceeds of crime, for example, across many jurisdictions. The UK does not act alone. Through BSI, we convene not only convene the national voice in ISO, IEC, and ITU, we hold a number of convener positioned in various working groups. ISO TC 307 is a technical committee specializing in blockchain and distributed ledger technology standards. And we do have more than 10, or even more than 10 now, working groups, ad hoc groups, study groups, which produce and revise a number of international standards on various aspects of blockchain and DLT. And quite a number of our standard negotiators in the UK delegation I'm leading and our counterparts in other member states are actually lawyers. From various law firms serving on a pro bono basis. They represent their countries in their own delegation to provide the inputs in such a important piece of work internationally. In the UK, we also retain full rights in European standards bodies, that is the European Standards Committee, CEN, and CENELEC, even after Brexit. And we are also able to chair committees and hold secretariats of any committee within these European standard bodies, despite Brexit. But don't ask me why there's a Brexit. And then ISO, CEN, and CENELEC ensure that global standards reflect our strength and practical lessons emerging from today's discussions on custodial resilience, threat intelligence, sharing, and reducing dispute in decentralized system through clear and encoded rules in the making. So the standard landscape is an ecosystem of over 40 standards in the blockchain DLT space as of today. We think of it in 6 layers shared, including shared vocabulary and architecture. Identifiers such as DTI and ISIN, messaging and data models, token technical standards, and regulatory wrapper. And these layers must fit together seamlessly, which dictates, dominates most of our work king time for standardization over the last 8 years since 2018 when the ISO Blockchain Standards Committee were founded. This architecture directive supports the resilience, traceability, and governance needs highlighted in the various panels today. Common identifiers and on-chain rule standards actually improve attribution of proceeds of crime and enable a rapid tracing required within those critical 24 to 72 hours windows. The late approach being shown on the screen here actually allows compliance by design by embedding KYC, transfer restrictions and audit requirement at token level, which indeed reduces both fraud vectors and disputes in DeFi environments. We've already laid the bedrock For example, ISO 22739, a standard that provides our shared vocabulary in the blockchain space. We have published standards for reference architecture, blockchain governance standards, smart contract taxonomies, and so on and so on. And these foundations directly address the definitional clarity needed to distinguish criminal fraud from regulatory failures and to build system resilience to AI-enabled attacks. We also note there are some gaps. We are working very hard on the ISO 20435, for example, for physical assets on blockchain and digital ledger network. But the most active work is in the financial asset tokenization at the moment, which is a joint effort between ISO Technical Committee 307 and Technical Committee 68. And in this work stitches digital assets and traditional finance together so they speak the same language. In doing so, it supports the operational resilience expectation of EU DORA regulation and UK CDP regime, strengthening custody cyber posture ahead of the new UK authorization rules, and provides the identify and data model that help institutions and law enforcement trace proceeds of crimes more effectively, for instance. When building this infrastructure, we do face some dilemma. A single universal rules is too rigid. Bespoke rules for every asset are too fragmented. But we all agree internationally that we try to stick to a layered hybrid model at the moment, which is a common horizontal base within thin asset-specific modules on top. It is our industry standard for achieving scale without sacrificing flexibility. It is indeed a Goldilocks approach, not too prescriptive, not laissez-faire, but just right that we're aiming at. This standardization model supports the compliance by design that our cyber and fraud colleagues have advocated, encoding rules at token level to reduce both illicit flows, particularly stablecoin off-ramps, and dispute in DeFi that we discussed just now. It also aligns with the risk-based, outcomes-focused thinking around the issue that allows institutions to meet rising operational resilience and custody expectation without stifling innovation in any individual sectors, particularly in decentralized green finance in the future. So what is the pain of? First is interoperability, of course, tokens and messages moving between ledgers without friction, directly supporting the rapid cross-border coordination required in short windows after cyber incidents. And second, it is liquidity. Shared identifiers allowed any values to list and price assets. And third, and perhaps most importantly, my view is the compliance by design. By using standardized rules, we can encode KYC, transfer restrictions, and audit requirements at token level, lower costs while helping institutions meet the operational resilience and custody expectation now being formalized. This same mechanism is actually also reducing the vectors for proceeds of crime and limits the scope for disputes in a DeFi environments. As we look toward 2030, imagine a world of seamless yet resilient cross-border settlement and flourishing composability. But as this saying goes, innovation without standard is a house without foundations together. We have the foundations now with some standards that were published. Now we need for the builders, the protocol developers, smart contracts engineers, and institutional innovators, and of course many lawyers with experience in this field to join our UK delegation, DLT1. If you are a UK citizen or a long-term resident in the UK, we don't simply follow the rules, but we hope that you all can help us write those rules internationally. The rules of the global digital economy for the next decade are being written again right now. I'd invite you to join us and ensure that the UK delegation helps lead that charge. Thank you for your time today, and I look forward to continuing this conversation at the networking session afterwards, where we might debate whether the next standard should cover quantum resistance cryptography even, or simply more reliable ways to keep the tea warm during the long standards meeting. You may pick up your mobile phone to scan this QR code on screen for the details of our committee website, and then we welcome any nominations from you or from your organizations to join our committee as a UK delegate together to shape the international standards going forward. And thank you very much, and I hope that you have enjoyed the conference, the symposium today, and I pass the time back to the moderator. Thank you.